evening, Antonio, Pade, Kakai, Jojo, Nora, Mulimutia. I should get around to reading this book and finishing it. Is my sound clear? I'm trying these things. I bought these things very cheaply, by the way. Nasoka nenguro webbe ne ufa. Anenguro bwara isi bulungi obwara isi. Buineri andalira isi andoza 5 hours. Obwebbe bwara stinga nga dakika 3 ne bukaba low battery. But how are you today? I hope you guys are doing well. Sound kane meseza radio yange. Bukuba temuli mu radio kavaako. Wemba muli mu radio, I have to close the door. But how are you today? I want us to talk about culture. And culture is one of those things that is very important to us. I have another phone, but apparently I don't see it in this car. I think in Nigeria one. Yeah, so hi Sekaja, Abaho Emi, Kayemba, Joshua, Muri Mutia. How is your evening? Farouk, JFK adds, how are you? So I had a very interesting, I've been having a number of conversations with one dude, Musomesa Digital Marketing. He's a very interesting guy. For starters, this guy is not Ugandan. He's not. He's actually American. And I laughed, like yesterday, the entire evening I was laughing about something I'm going to share the moment a lot of you guys come on. But I've been having an interesting conversation with this gentleman, and I realized that it's a culture thing. These things are uncomfortable. Let me just remove Bluetooth. To them sound for Aboriginal. Yeah, so let's return to our normal sound. Hi, Abby. Muli mutia. So, nabagambo buntu buno mbuleta, by the way, nze njalisanga wakalango kange. Ngenda baletira obuntu buno. It might not be this exact model. Even today, as I was getting out of my house, enkube no buli wetonya tulonde emisumali sometimes adala fa bayita mu ngudo ezimanyi okufloodingamu. So we pick up nails. So yesterday, no, was Thursday evening, as I was coming home, I stopped at the petrol station, and surprisingly, ompira gwa drive gwa passenger guli ogw'omaaso gwali gulimu omusumali, and it was losing pressure. So I stopped. That day I was just, I think, lucky. Never good jam omusumali, never go pick up. So today I think I picked up a nail again, but I'm not worried. First of all, I have a spare tire. Yes, but I also have this thing. And this thing, like I showed you, you put in the cigarette thingy there, and then you pressurize your tire. Every car owner should have this thing. Have you ever like opened up your boot to get a spare tire? All of a sudden you realize that even the spare tire doesn't have pressure. So that situation you will never go through again. Emma, good evening. Council Patrick Asiku, good evening. Tusime Eddie, good evening. Vinny Katz, hi. So culture. You guys, first of all, I want us to get to know each other. Where do we come from? Me, I'm a musajja omuganda. Ndi musajja muganda no dala. Ndi musajja muganda nedida fumbe akabiro chikere mu lubiri lwa kabaka tuli basawo. So you guys, I want to learn more about your cultures. Then I tell you the conversation I've been having with this American for the past couple of days. Because I've been teaching him now for like 2 weeks. He's one of my students of digital marketing. And we have been having very interesting conversations. So in my culture, a man is superior. Also in my culture, a woman is superior. But why? Why do we say a man and a woman is superior? Both of them are superior. Yes, Abaho Emi Emunyakore from Rukunjiri, Western Uganda. Tell us about your culture. I'm going to tell you very interesting. I laughed. So in our culture, both the man and woman are superior. Why? The man is superior because he makes the money, he makes a way, he goes to battle. Basically, he's the provider of the home. However, I happen to think that the woman might end up being the provider because the woman goes to the garden, the woman looks after the kids. Also, the woman The woman brings in the food, cooks the food, takes care of the kids and the husband. I think that's why they even say the husband is the first child of the woman. I know you guys have heard of that. And also in our culture, we have a king. The king is superior to everyone. The king comes after the gods. The gods anoint the king. And as is in all cultures, right? So Paul Banaria, good evening. Brian Wanyama, good evening. Tuli bulungi Chambade Hannington Oliotia. So anyway, in my culture still, there is one thing that interests me. In my culture, or musajja toba musajja paka ngoine uwo. That's in my culture. Kakati Vianney oba woli Vianney he disagrees with that. Omusajja olina okuba ne uwo nga uwo. But of course Vianney aine uwe, she just doesn't have it in town. I'm a Musoga from Kamuli, from there. Baise Mubusubo clan. Yes, Prose, tell us about the Baise Mubusubo. I was actually surprised. You guys in Busoga, you copied everything from Buganda. Like everything that is, it's like you copied. Like I normally have arguments with my admin, Warik office. She's a Munyoro. And normally we have arguments. She had also a brother that we worked with at a certain time. And the brother is a staunch Munyoro guy. So we worked in Western Uganda, Munyoro. That's Western Uganda, right? So we were in Hoima town, and this guy is a staunch Munyoro. You know how you find a staunch Baganda. And he was a staunch Munyoro. And every time we would go by at the palace, he would say, Mr. Arthur, Orabie, Aukabaka wafe watura, omukama waturao. And he would tell me, atemu abaganda mwatu babuli chimu. Nengenda kujja mu Buganda, nzali mbakaza abaganda, mbazali mu abana bangi. In the end to taking over Buganda. Kuba Buganda yali part of Bunyoro. And now this admin who happens to be a lady is constantly telling me how the Baganda are less superior to the Banyoro. You get. So Biberao, Matembe Abdul Nasa, good evening. Jojo Jowan, good evening. Mutumba, Jonathan Mutumba, good evening. So you guys, tell us about your culture. It's important that we learn about each other's culture. Why is it important? So in my class, I have someone from Congo. These are very interesting. And I have someone from the US. Now, the person from Congo, I normally don't want to go to these people's stories because normally they are very painful. There is no one that would want to leave their country. But normally the people that come from Congo to Uganda, they leave Congo because of the unfriendly, the hostile environment that is happening there. Hi, Paddy. And then they come to Uganda. And that's why normally I don't ask these guys for their stories, because their stories are normally very painful. And so I try to avoid the people from Congo, people from Sudan. Their stories are normally painful. So while they are here, they feel at home. Antonio Random Things Munyoro from Hoima. Are you one of those staunch Banyoro? When I was getting my passport, they told me to work as a Muganda. Hey, Paddy. Like literally all people that go to the passport office don't know who their great-grandfather was. And you're asking young people if they know. If someone has a birth certificate, why are you asking them for those things? You should just straighten the process of giving birth certificates to people, and then the rest of things work themselves out. So anyway, we have this American in my class, the digital marketing class, and just a bit of his story. I'm sharing that. I have promised to share his picture, but hi Abaho, how are you? I had promised to share his picture, but I did not share his picture because apparently he believes in his story. He believes his story is too powerful, too important, that I should be giving him money to share his story. So, but I thought that his story would be interesting because he's this guy that is in his 40s but looks to be in his 30s, at least on face. We were talking in class, and I found that one difference: culture is made, but there is culture that came before us. There are things that were done before we came. There are things that were believed in before we came to be. There are things that were believed in even before our fathers were born. Like there is something that I was told as I was growing up. When you grow up, your trousers will always be dripping of water. You get? And that's something that they used to tell kids because a kid can just urinate anywhere. And I find that they used to tell this to the kids because if you urinate in water bodies, the same water is fetched, used to shower you, used to cook your food. So it's not safe. So the Baganda were trying to find a way to stop the kids from urinating in water. So now that I understood. And there's so many things that they used to tell the people, totula kusiga. You know, those things that I used to cook. Masiga bagaita, but the stove, the stone stove. And they used to tell the kids, Bonotula kusige, something would happen. I don't remember what that does. But they had so many things that would happen to you if you did certain things. And then you realize kusiga bali baganaba no kutulako because they are protecting the kids against the fires. Oyinzo tula kusiga ngaliocha because of adoma nyide. And then I realized when my son got burnt, Abani Easter 2022, I think. My jajja yali wano, jajja bwajja wano okukyala, ne bagenda abantu abakulu bonna ne batuulira mu kitchen gye baali bafumbira. Aba naava wano. Kati bw'ava mu ddiiro agenda mu kitchen, jajja amulere mu kugira n'asamba esepiki y'obugi n'emuyikira ku kigere eno wansi. Then I remembered why people would actually keep a distance. Bafumbira eri ne bakuma wano omuliro gw'okunyumizaako stories. You get. Kayemba Joshua High. Kayemba agamba mulangira from Sekabaka Mutebi. Uncle Athanze ndi mulangira who got exiled. Antonio Olimba we bakweza kizaire ngate nofuuka omunyoro. Antonio ali ku demand. Kugamba not booking appointment. Not gwempereza ka message ebirala obindekere. So anyway, so we have been having this conversation with this American. And I noticed that there are so many differences in our cultures. And I also noticed that ebintu ebisinga byetubeeramu byebifuula culture normal. Our culture is so similar to the Bagandas. We don't differ that much. Apart from the language. Prosi Bravo, I normally argue with one of the guys I work with who is a Musoga. I tell him, Abasoga mwakwatanga ebigambo by'Oluganda ne mubinyoolamu katono. It seems like you guys got angry with us and you went to a different culture, a different place, and then you decided, you get to banyize enough to call olulimi olwaffe. But anyway, that's a joke. So I realize as a people, like if for example I go through something, yeah, nzenga Arthur, I will make sure that my kids don't have to go through that thing ever. So what do I do? To avoid my kids going through that particular thing, what I will do, I'll create a set of cultures in my home, a set of practices in my home to make sure that those kids stay in the places where I want them to be, do what I want them to do in order to protect them. So that in a way brings about culture. You get? So this gentleman, he's American. And he keeps his time. And bana student banga abana digital ebisere mute bakuuma budde when nali nkyali mutonga ntambula nnyo bisere bina tambulanga nnyo nga literally over every 2 months ngende ebweru ate bwe ngende ebweru ne mara ennaku 3 n'enkomawo. You know how it is, you spend 2 days on the plane, be there for 1 day, spend another 2 days, come back. So ngoma ennaku 5 obanga agenze ebweru naye ng'ebweru omalayo olunaku actually lutya lumu. So when I used to travel a lot ng'abeera nnyo n'abazungu, and I adapted the way these guys were living, and then I would come to Uganda and I would get angry at how Ugandans did their things, and I would think Ugandans were unserious. I would think Ugandans did not know what they wanted. You get it? I would think bano bana Uganda tebali serious, bana Uganda bagala kutuswaza ngensi. I used to think that, by the way. Wait. Njagala kubaako kyenkola wano. Simanyi bwe kinaatuyamba. Let me do this. This is better. So I used to think that Ugandans were unserious because Ugandans don't keep time. And this happens to everyone abaddeko Bulaya for a very long time. Akomawo ng'alabira ddala bannayuganda tebali serious. However, I got to learn, nga bwe mbagambye nti sometimes I'm trying to make sure this phone doesn't overheat. Let me try to solve it. Okay. Yes, we are almost there. Okay. Oh yeah. That should help. So anyway, did that thing just zoom in? Okay. So Antonio Agamba, I was a Chitara prince, but when I got exiled, I became a Muganda mixed. Dinako wave bunyone bako exciting ano ne mujje oba tata ogwe kuba goli mutose otosobola kubanga bako exciting. Nora hope you are happy now. Owangudde naye bambi nsaba toddamu kubunyabonya mu kwa Antonio because now Hajara may get frustrated. Anyway, I was getting ready to go to the gym and mama waba aba nangamba Ragna aina we need to take him to the hospital. So we took him to the hospital, and by the time we came from the hospital, it was 4:10. I thought I would drive as fast. Apparently I'm no longer a fast driver. I can drive fast in my Corolla, but these new cars, I can't drive fast. First of all, they are automatic. I don't know that I have enough control over an automatic car. I have control over a manual car, but I don't have control over an automatic car. So I think that kind of makes me drive slow. So I drove almost quarter way the journey to the gym, and then I changed my mind. I said, let me go back home. So today is my day to relax. However, I've done a lot of work. So I have an assignment. Today I've done 2 full numbers on the exam year for submitting. So I've achieved something today, taken my kids to the hospital at least. Yeah, that's something. And also relaxed. My grandfather exiled himself in 1932. Hey, Antonio Gwengomanyi history. The history we wafe simumanyi ubani yali gulete because eyo tutubitite nkanyanga nanga tugenda ofuna passport. So anyway, culture. Abanyankole temuna tugamba ku culture ya. Mani agambe nti munyankole bambi tubulire ku culture yo. Tell us about your culture. Do we have a Mukonzo here? I work with a Mukonzo at Dynamo, and this dude doesn't know his culture. This dude twamugamba nga tugenda okukola cafe agenda aleeta ebintu by'abakonjo bye bakola so that we write about them. Guy had to go to the village to ask people, and even the people in the village did not know. Bakonzo need to pull their socks up to maintain, to kind of preserve their culture and heritage. You guys need to pull your socks up. At least the Musoga tried, because for the guys that watch the cafe, you guys can see the Basoga. We have the Basoga a lot in that because the owner of the cafe is a Musoga, and then we have the Baganda, and then we have the Banyoro. At least the Banyoro are women, but at least they know a bit about Bunyoro. Hi, Peace Joseph. Arthur, I'm a Muganda born and bred in Matuga. Where Arthur stays is where our graveyard is. Antonio, was that necessary? Government is a jembela checharo cha babazika. Come on. Ataka kutunafuya nyo nawe. Eka kutunafuya nyo. Sawa nawe joberede wachiso. Na yo wali obewazika yo. Eka na kutunafuya nyo. You don't have to add that. It's our graveyard. Neda Antonio. Emma. So, you guys, tell us about the practices in your culture that you think were brought about by certain things. Mchaba nyumiza story of America. So, this guy keeps time. By the way, I keep time. Our class normally starts at 9 a.m. And by 9, this dude is already there. And this one time, in Kuba Yatonya, I hope you remember the day that almost in Bois or Gudurwa flooding. You guys remember that? So, I came on time, and it was 9 a.m. So we had to wait for the other guys. Normally, I tell my admin, I want to bring somesa, call them and make sure if they are still fat to kumpi. Now you know how Ugandans can be. So we wait for these other guys. We wait and wait. And then a few minutes to 10, which is too late, by the way. A few minutes to 10. Muraberinya matembe lyaba Tanzania. Matembe lyaba bulijjo ne media matembe na isimu na Uganda. He settled in Buganda nansa na Kyaddondo mu muluka gw'Ennabweru ekyalo Wamala Taaba era we wali ekijja mwenga babazaala mu kibuga. Gwe Abdul Nasa, you are Tanzanian. Olingo no sango. So anyway, guys, so this dude Najana Ngamba, but you man, we pay our money. Teach us. I can't teach you alone. Besides, mathematics. Narimba somesa break-even analysis for the guys that know it. And it's very important even in marketing, because marketing helps make decisions. And I told him, you know what? We have to wait for these guys because Bagambi Bajja. And then I let it go. And then in the middle of the class as I was teaching, I decided that, okay, this guy, because he's new to our country, it's important for us to try and tell him how things come about. Now, mwabantu abamu ababeera e Bulaaya, bwe mujja wano e Uganda, mumanyi okulowooza nti abantu bano tebali serious, ebiseera mu omuntu atuuka leeti n'olowooza tali serious, enkuba n'etonnya n'atajja noga tali serious. I used to think like that. However, with time I started learning that you're not a hero. You're not going to fix the culture of a people. Now the culture of a people is shaped by so many things. I'll give you an example. In Uganda, majority of people were farmers before, right? This means that they farm in the morning when the weather is nice. Enkuba bw'etonnya tosobola genda mu nnimiro kulima. You know what that means? Because you cannot go to the garden to dig when it's raining, so you sleep a little more, wait for the rain to come down, then you go to the garden and dig. You see how that happens to also kind of shape the culture that Ugandans are in here? Ono katumu blocking ngobudde bukyali. So you realize that ekyo ekintu ky'obutalima ng'enkuba etonya, nti enkuba bw'eba etonya beeyongera ne beebaka ne bazukka ng'enkuba ekedde ne bagenda ne balima, oba ku olwo ne batalima ne balima enkeera. Okitegeera? Ne balima enkeera. You get? So it's something that is embedded in the culture of the people of Uganda, not just Uganda. Basically, I think it's an African thing. Kakati bwe tujja ne tukola ebintu byaffe ebya culture bino, bwe tujja n'ogenda ebweru n'olaba abantu bali abazungu engeri gye beeyisaamu, nojja n'olowooza ne wano kiyinza okwapplyinga as much nti Munnayuganda ajja kukuuma obudde nga bali. Before you learn what the culture of these people, oyinza obutabitegeera. Let me try and put into perspective what I know about Europe. I know that Europeans during the winter, they work from home or they don't work at all. Then I know that during the summer, they also work. For example, Canada has a very bad weather that right now. It means that these guys work in summer. I don't know the guys that are in Europe. You can correct me. But you know, when I was in Norway, the northern part of Norway, in Bodø, and by the time Bodø, I don't know how they pronounce it properly. I was performing in Norway, that very northern part, and it was very cold. The ice was there. So I was there, and people were working. But I know that there are times when the storm is really that bad, and they literally someone can't get out of their house. They can't get out of their house. So that's something that has become part of their culture because of where they live. Then there's also those days when the sun doesn't go down, when it comes up like today and goes down 2 days later, like in Norway, for example. I was there, I think, June. And that day, everyone is there relaxing. I also know that it's part of the culture of the Europeans to walk around town. And they are not called idle. It's part of their culture. Fe wano mu Uganda, bujja n'osanga omuntu ng'atudde ku street omulaba ng'ali idle, naye ng'ate bo abazungu, part of their culture is that they can walk batambula olunaku lwonna, balya ice cream olunaku lwonna. Kati fe wano, because we are African, it's not part of our culture to like be there moving about during the day, eating ice cream and pizza, going out to the restaurants and all. But it's their culture. In their culture, someone can be doing that every day and it's okay. Fe wano otandika okwebuuza oba oli mubbi, lwaki gwe bunaku olya mu restaurant, lwaki gwe bunaku olya ice cream, because it's not part of our culture. Ebintu ebize bitushapinga. Someone should help me. How do I get Arthur's number? Jojo, my number is in the description of this channel. Genda ku channel eno, ogenda oklickinge about, enamba yange mweri mu about section. So you guys, muna bandu za culture engeri gye ebintu influencing mu culture y'abantu. Nze emirundi gye mbadde mu Europe and in the US, waliwo in Chicago. I went to Chicago. You guys ababeera mu America ndoza manyi the Bean, that place they call the Bean. And I was in Chicago for, was it 4 days? Because Chicago visa US yalwawo okujja. yajja late, so I took the flight late, nentuuka ku lunaku lwa performance lwennyini, I didn't even rehearse, natuuka banfunidde na understanding nga lugaya agenda ozanya party yange, namusanga nga wali, he was called Adeleo Mabugunje, yazanya ne mu prison break, so nsanga gayi nga already ali ready okuzanya party yange, bamugamba no but the actor has come, nisanga room yange bagijjuza ebikoko nenda nengenda ne performing, and I had only one performance. But my ticket was there for like 4 days, I think. So I spent the next 4 days in Chicago. I was living with this lovely woman, Ramita Lewis. And Lewis ne guy, like Aliya Wasaka guy kekato. And we were living in her house. And every day we would walk out and visit Chicago. Then I don't really remember that thing. Then we went to the bean. And it's totally normal for them to be moving around in Africa. Uganda wendi wano. It's not normal. You can go to the Uganda Museum and you don't even find Ugandans. Osanga yo wazungu berere. Abazungu babate bali where you find the Uganda Museum empty. It's not in our culture. Now, me, I've learned to start to kind of understand where our cultures come from and why we do what we do. Now, onogaya ita nategera why we do what we do. Why people do. Nze natandika kutegera, and sometimes someone can come late. And if they have an excuse, like I work with people, ngabo atuka late, you would ask him, nairu acho to say it. You want to understand. Let me tell you why people come late to work or to school or something like that. Nze nsoma ku UMI. It's a big institution, big government institution. Abasomesa yo ba doctor, baba de munsi z'abazungu bichi. But nabo batuka late. So I was talking to this gentleman during class. Nemugamba, you know what? I think you should learn something about our culture. Ebintu ebimu bye tukola tetubikola because twagala. Bana Uganda bonga bote bagala kubeera late. There is something I basically did not tell him. Omuntu alinya taxi. Okuva e Kasangati okutuuka mu kibuga bw'oba ovuga emmotoka ovugira eddakiika nga 25 ku 3. But because of jam, osobola ovugira eddakiika 5 ng'ovuga. Omuntu alinya taxi. Take factor in jam. Factor in the taxis stopping because they don't have customers and all passengers. Omuntu alinya taxi okuva e Kasangati tutoka mu kibuga atambulira we sawa mmeka? Sawa 2. Kati kitegeeza you need to plan. However, if you plan and plan properly, you can get to the road not afunawo taxi. That's why abantu bafiira ku border. Nti omuntu ajja n'agiranga apapa taxi ebuze n'atula ku border. Atagenda obungu bugenda okujja nti katunga atule ku border ng'obudde budduse nga alina gamba wa border dduka. Owa border mu kudduka gye bafunira akabenje. I don't know if you guys get what I'm saying. That's why border accidents will take a long time before they... Twetaaga yo system. Kati eri mu Europe, you can plan your time. Omanya nti the tram will leave at 3:30. Tram A eyita ku route wait. Tram A tezikwatibwa jam. So kitegeeza when I take the tram, I know that in 40 minutes I'm going to be at this place. If I take the tram there, then I can run to the location. But here, you literally can't plan. Let me tell you why you can't plan. I take it in no, it's worse. I can plan to be in town like on a public holiday because there would not be jam. I can plan to ngenda kubeera mu town in 40 minutes. Oba otuuka Matugga ku mabanda ne babasibanga president ayitawo. Ne babasibire saawa ejo. Ne muzikiza president akola ki? President ayitawo. Kadate waliwe basibanga ebya namu nga babasibire saawa ezo. Kitegeeza it's very, in third world countries I want to call it like that. The people that have some importance give themselves too much importance that they don't think any other person has value for their time. Which you can imagine stopping people that are going to work for 2 hours. No mteka mu jam. Our culture. Now, on the day wetuwogerako ku bintu ebyo ebyokutuuka late, enkuba yatonnya. Mujijukira when I was doing the live broadcasting akuba kumpiri floodings. That day, enkuba lwe yatonnya ennyo. And me, I understand. Bana abaana abamu bensomesa bavubuka beetetenkanya. Oluma alina kulinnya taxi okusobola okutuuka woli. Then, asobola okuba afuluma ennyumba enkuba n'etandika ate neeyiika nnyo nga talina umbrella, nga talina raincoat. Kati bwe yalibadde nayo, okitegeera. Akimanya agenda okutandika okutambula agenda tuke ku stage nga tewali border, tewali taxi. Kati ng'alina kulinda enkuba ekamukemu. That you see how the environment shapes our culture. Ekirala nti omuntu ajja kwagala okukuuma obudde abe nga atambula bankuba ebitaba. Yesai nga talina okukyuka dde yakyuse because it's only proper ogenda mu bantu ng'otukula. Kati ekyo ne kintuusa leeti. asobola okulinnya taxi nevuga. You guys have been to Ginger Road wali ku Euroform awe watawe we bayita Kyambogaawo wali ebondi z'emmotoka. Enkuba etonyanga nyingi abantu wano wa flooding ng'emmotoka zirina kukyuka ziddeyo ziyite ewalala. You see how that shapes our culture? Nti slowly people start believing that Ugandans are lazy, Ugandans don't want to keep time, bichi. Nenga mutufu omuntu ayagala okukuuma obudde naye ebintu bimusobako. Okitegeera. So it's important for us to try and maybe understand where our cultures come from. So I was talking to this gentleman, and then he said, but you guy, me, I don't give excuses for my life. I work with whatever I have. And but me, I used to be like you. I used to think the way you think. I used to think that the people that are poor by choice. Nti yasara wanti kati obwavu mbugumidde. Nja kubeera mwavu. Teri muntu asarawo kubeera mwavu. Teri muntu asobola kusala wanti kangumira obwavu tebulina buzibu. Taliyo. That's one thing I've learned. Nti ebintu olumu bigaana. And I think dealing with various people has taught me that it has kind of humbled me. Omanye biseera ebisinga bwe tutambula ennyo n'obeera ebweru n'obeera mu bagagga oba kuba ebweru n'omuntu omwavu kizibu kumutegeera. Otandika okulowooza nti poor people are poor by choice. Ebiseera emu abantu abaavu abo tebali poor by choice, because he was telling me nti Ugandans are lazy, you guys are competing with Chinese, Chinese are nemugamba bannange, you guy, you need to understand where we come from. Chinese, China ayinza okujja no myaka 2 nga ina capital ya dola $1,000. Bameka abaana ab'emyaka 2 abalina capital $1,000 ogwa dola. Okitegeera, very few if they exist. Ekirala, Abachina bali bwe basomesa education system yawe bintu ebibasomesa, the business, bichi. If you want to okusoma John speak. So ebintu bingi bishapinga how we think, how we conceptualize. Nemugamba n'Abachina government eba supporting, Abachina balina support. Tewali project wane ekoleddwa company y'Abachina nga teriko support of the Chinese government. Kitegeeza ki? The Chinese government yennyini enoonyeza abantu baayo opportunities ekitali muffe. You realize that what the president yagenda na launching coffee gwe bagenda tunroba mutunda Siberia. Still, it's a member of the minister's team, a member of the government guys that is going to take over that business. But abantu ba once tebagenda kufunamu. So you see how our culture is. Nti fefe nyini culture yaffe ebiseera ebintu ebimu bye tuyitamu culture yaffe ebituteekamu. Okitegeera, culture yaffe, for example, omuvubuka gwe mmanya akola wiring weyo Kasanga tyoba bamuyitaani mwerabidde erinnya, akola wiring wa mmotoka, yaŋŋamba tali bulungi, by the way, tali bulungi, taata we tali bulungi, kojja we family yonna teri bulungi, katate yalabikanga ali obulungi. He was telling me agenda zaala abaana bangi kubanga taata waabwe yazaala abaana batono. You see, our culture values certain things that other cultures don't value. This dude is clearly saying, I'm going to have a lot of kids because my dad did not have a lot of kids. He's taking on the responsibility that his father did not. Tafuddeyo babaana basobola batabasobola. I find that that's not a very wise decision, but that is what he believes in. That is what our culture has made us believe, that we as men, we have the responsibility to make our clans bigger. That the more people come in our clans, the more development will come. However, our culture has failed to tell us that now the age has changed. You have to have kids, quality, not quantity. Zara abana bono osobola okuweerera obayise mu university oba technical college or something like that. Batuukenga bategeera. Ebyo culture yaffe tebitugamba. Ebisirikira, probably because even the people that make our culture don't know. Okitegeera. Because God, respectfully, by the way, abaana ba Kabaka tumanyi bameka. Okitegeera, Kabaka yali badde alina abaana nga 10, tabaweza. Kati gwe atatuuka ku bugagga bwa Kabaka, kyekikuzaaza abaana 20. For you respect the culture more than the king. Okitegeera. So, ebintu ebimu culture yaffe byegendetekamu, ebimu birungi, ebimu si birungi. Naye ebimu tebyebeereka. Okitegeera. So I was trying to make this guy understand, kubanga he's starting a factory here. Nemugamba, you know, you're starting a factory in Uganda. I want you to be a little fluid. Try to understand that Ugandans don't have the same problems as you Americans. Okitegeera. Nti muna Uganda ayina ebizibu byaba nabyo ebishaping how they live. but I had problems. Then he was telling me he was an orphan at 7, yali orphan ku 7 years, nayingira n'atandika mama we n'ayagala okumutta, n'asigala ku street. Nemugamba ebyo ebintu byonna byonyumya wano mu Uganda tubiraba. And for us, because it's too much, kifuuse na normal. And you know, guys, you know how you see how I laugh about stuff, and I was laughing about, literally, he was telling me stuff and I was laughing, and he was offended. Now, Gamba, how do you laugh about? But this is how we deal with our trauma. He's this gentleman, Akirizanti, he's not American. He was taken as a slave. His ancestors were taken as slaves from the West Coast, in America. So he doesn't believe he's American. And because I was laughing about stuff he was saying, why are you laughing? Class. And because you know how Ugandans can be, in Uganda we have found ways to cope. Like there's so many bad things going on that we and there is something I've interpreted about this. Mujukira omuzanyo gwa Alex Mukuru bagwita 30 years of banana. It's full of music. I realize that by every culture, every generation inengeri je copinga. Ka generation yaba Alex Mukuru yakolanga emizanyo nekola ennyimba nga gikoona government. Nti bino bye bakola si birungi, stuff like that. For generation yaffe, our generation laughs about stuff. That's why you find that we no longer want to watch serious things. We laugh about things, and through being funny about stuff, we send the message to the world that, you know what, we are suffering, but we are going through it gracefully. This is how we send our message. And I find the same thing about slavery, because this gentleman kept referencing to slavery. Nangamba, and the funny bit is coming. Nangamba, because the slaves used to sing, right? Mujukira films about slaves zetwala banga. The slaves would sing. I find that them singing was their way of coping with the situation, to soothe the pain and to also send a message. Now that was not music. But music is music. Katino zomuntu gwayogera nange. Nasomere makerede emyaka esatu ngansoma bintu bino. Nenga ngamba it wasn't music. His ngamba it was a message. Ngamba yes, it was a message, but still it was music. It was music. Yes, they were sending messages to other slaves that maybe now this is the time for us to rebel and all that. But they were singing. For us, katifaba with the music, if you listen to Bamuita Ani on the cheek. I've forgotten. So I had a girlfriend did that Kazungu Kampa DVD Chikyoyo, and I would listen to that song Bamuita. And when I remember the name, I'll say she sang so many freedom songs, Nainga America. And I was telling him the slaves naboba ina coping mechanism ya. When after Uganda, our coping mechanism is laughing. That's why people have even coined the statement Uganda is serious. You get, because they have seen too much, that it's very hard for you to come and tell him kasachibanga techimuse techimutadde damage techidamages techi family member we ngabantu bonna bakyali balamu bo bagamba tujja kukiyitamu, so they laugh about it. That's how Ugandans are coping, and it's slowly becoming our culture. And you will ask yourself, abantu abavu lwaki babeera happy? They have found ways to cope with the poverty. They have found ways to cope with not having food. They have found ways to cope with eating one meal a day. They have found ways of not having very clean water. They have found ways of, so many ways of dealing with stuff. People find ways of coping. And yeah, they offended that we were laughing about stuff. And then we were telling him, you guys, you have an American passport. That takes you places. Nemugamba, ask anyone in this class whether they would prefer to be in Uganda other than the US. And all these guys were saying, I'm America. And this guy was saying, but me, I'm in Uganda. And it's surprising that you'll be surprised this guy paid a bribe to enter Uganda. So, but anyway, we're talking about culture. And the things we go through, the way I drive is my culture now. It's shaped by the things I've gone through. Okay? The way I talk to people, it's shaped by the things I've gone through. Finally, the professions we choose are shaped by the things we have gone through, the things we're exposed to. The chances are higher that nayagenda beera makanika. Ebintu engeri gye babikolamu ebeera yaba makanika. Because it's okay. Omwana bwakula nga alaba enjala za kitaawe zibeera ziddugala literally all the time. Naye enjala ze zijja kuba ziddugala, and they will find it normal. Omwana bwakula nga alaba abazadde bawemula. It is a culture in the home. Agenda kusandika. That's why it's very important twakyalanga ne tugenda ne tuwummula. These days ebintu by'okuwummula abazadde tebakyagala baana baabwe genda kuwummula. Why? Because balabi cultures eziri mu maka agamu nga si nnungi. Waliwo abaana bajja okukyala ewanga baana nga tebalina mpisa, obwana nga tebulina mpisa, akaana kasobola okulaba TV ne kagyewuubirako. Nze abaana abange tebabikola. So I would not want my kids to go to that place to learn those bad manners. Okitegeera? Balina n'obuyisayisa obulala bwe baali bakola obutanyuma baana kukola mu bantu. Naye nga bo bazadde baabwe balaba it's okay, bo balaba omwana amuwadde freedom. Nenjugala ne taata w'abaana n'aŋŋamba, nze taata wange nali mutya saagala baana bange bantye. Kati ng'abaana toyagala bakutye naye ng'ate abaana oboonoona. Okitegeera, you're creating a very bad culture in your home. So the things that we go through shape our culture. And there's one interesting thing, I don't know if I will laugh today, but I laughed the entire journey home yesterday. So this guy had a book, Aka Slavery. Because for the American, slavery is really deep. It's really deep. And he was telling me that he walks around with a book. Because we were joking about these things and we were laughing that Americans were not, what they were doing was not music when they were singing in the fields and all. And we were laughing and we were saying, he said, I would love to see you read this book. I can read it, but can I have, you know how these guys above America, they are used to people saying yes to them all the time, to the extent that atuka ngomuntu ayogera ekintu ekidifaringa na ekyayagala ayogere awulira nti amuofendinze okitegeera. And there is a time he said, I want to speak to your superiors. You know how they throw their weight around. Nemugamba, but I'm the superior here. I'm the superior, so you have to talk to me. There is nothing to do. And he was saying, you guys are laughing about slavery, you're laughing about the music. We are not laughing about the music, we are laughing about the fact that you're denying that was actually music, because music is a way to communicate. And he said, I slavery nagam, I want you to read this book and I see if you will still laugh. Nemugamba, can I give it my, nemubuza if I can give it my own interpretation, because if you give me a book to read, you should also give me the liberty to interpret the book my way. And he said, yes. Let me tell you one thing. All the Africans have given this book have not been able to read it to the end. Say. Do you know why I laughed? Because Africans don't want to read. I told him, you guy, you think that the Africans don't read that book to the end because it's too painful to read? These Africans don't want to read. It's in our culture. We don't want to read. So probably you give these guys the book, they open the first 4 pages. I like to read, and look where I am with the book. And I like to read. Majority of us don't like to read. It's not in our culture to read. Osegera katiye bambi gayi wabadenga agaba akatabo nakawa abafirika ngabanyuma amazoba nyumiza how sad the story was, because bana abantu bali used abantu okukiriza yes ndoza abantu beyawanga akatabo ngabakiriza bukiriza you go and read this book and see how slavery was very painful ngabakiriza ngabatwala ndoza ngabikulako page 3 ngabakamara gayi rwako mawuku balaba ngabamudiza akatabo ngababuza you saw how painful it was. Yes ndoza ngayaruza these guys bwebamugamba I could not even finish the book I did not finish the book. They stopped halfway, and because the things were too painful to read, they stopped. Africans have been through worse. It was not slavery, but Africans have been through bad things. So when they don't read this, like he told me he was in Sudan, like guys, Sudanese have been through bad stuff. And he was telling me, but you know what? Africans don't like to read. They don't like to read. One of the reasons why online education is still hard in Africa is because with online education, you have to read on your own majority of the time. The lecturer might not be there. I'll give you reading things. And that's why online education is still struggling in Africa. Because our culture, we are not readers. Nasese nenseka guy naye natandika okuseka after realizing that abantu bano baleka bali bakola ki bali bamulimba nti ebintu byali painful for them because akatabo tebakasoma. We are not readers. So you see how our culture, when you go to a place and you don't learn the culture of the people, otandika okulowooza nti these people also feel the way you feel about stuff. Naye nga ate these guys don't feel the way you feel about stuff. They just don't get to feel, because according to them, they don't have to get to that place. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. They never get to the, like, okuwa mufiriko okusoma akatabo tajja kasoma because it's not in their culture. Like, Africans will read something that interests them. Nango butabo ensoma, I read things that interest me. Like this one. This is a masterclass in creative thinking by Dave Trott. I read this. I read these books on marketing. I read books even on performing arts. I don't really read so many books, because I believe that so many guys that write performing arts books, they write from experience. So I should write my own experience. But I read books on creativity, because fakat arts, it's creativity. But anyway, people read books that interest them. They won't just go around reading books. And now these days, what your app says is summarizing obutabo. You just put in the title, and the app, the AI will summarize the book. It will tell you this book talks about this and this and this and this. This is the important thing. This is the lesson you should pick out. So AI is making things easy. So I don't know where the future of reading is, but that's where we are. So culture is very important. And there are people that have a culture eyokusosora nga bo basosora bannaabwe. I don't want to say it's a very bad culture, because it's a very bad culture. We all know that. We are all human beings. And for you to know that we are all human beings, we all excrete. Senga badde breed y'abantu nga bo babeera, they are pure, they don't excrete. Waligambye nti these people are better than the other people, but we all do the same things. Tulya, tufuluma, okitegeera. So we are all normal people. The fact that one person looks better than another, or one person is taller than another, or one person has a longer nose than another, or one person has brown eyes and the other has black, or one person has beards like I have beards and other people don't have beards, it doesn't mean that me who has beards I'm special than. Of course the beards are a different thing, but it doesn't mean that me, because I have beards, I'm more special than any other person. Okitegeera. So anyway, to you now, I think we need to understand, if, for example, I moved to Bunyoro, I would have to first learn the cultures of the people. Like, we would be going to places, nebagamba nti eyo no gy'olaga, when you eat something, tokasuka kaveera ku kkubo, bajja kuba bakumaze. Bw'olya kasooli, tokasuka kikongolijjo ku kkubo, bajja kuba bakumaze. This is the elder people trying to warn us that in that place, their culture is like this and it like this. Era ne wabaawo ebifo ne bakugamba nti when you go to places like this, yeah? When you go to places like this, abo bali abantu totambula kiro. This is people trying to tell you that this is the culture of those people, so that you understand how the cultures of these people actually operate. I don't know if you get what I'm saying, guys. So it's important that it doesn't matter where you're standing. Ne wonna wonna woli. It would be very important for you to understand the cultures of a people. Bw'owasa omukyala nga tava mu culture yo, understand Java bakola batya, babuuza batya. Nze nagende Norway. My very first time I was surprised about people. Nali sikirabangako. I went to Norway, and the Norwegians don't greet good morning, sir, how are you, blah blah blah. They say hi hi. Ne bwaba jjajjaawe bwazuuka ku makya namusanga mudira hi hi. That's how they greet. That's their culture. And that's their culture, and it's very okay. Nagende Norway, I lived at a certain home. It was, I think, about 80 kilometers from Oslo, because in the beginning, nanisula mu hotel mu Oslo. Then nengena anchaleko, and we went to this home. They had a house nga nene singa ne young. It was huge. Oli omukyala ndoza yomu ku bakyala bano wabazaala nnyo abaana. She had about 7 kids. Nga nyumba ye nene, she was divorced, I think, with the husband. No, at that time they were not yet divorced. But she had a very huge house. Then she had a barn on the side. Era mu abantu abazimba farm. I think this is something you should consider. She had a very huge house. In my country house, because I'll definitely have to create a country house. So nga aine nyumba nga nene nnyo, naye on the side balinawo n'ekiyumba ekirala ekyakolanga nga store. Nga mu store w'omwo, I think kino ekintu abazungu bakitusinga nnyo. Bino byonna bye batugamba save for a rainy day. Abazungu bano, it's not necessarily that they have a lot of money. First of all, systems abwe zikola nti eddwaliro likola bye lirina okukola. Amakubo gakola bye galina okukola. Train zikola bye zirina okukola. The transport system works. The government works. Buli kimu kikola kirina okukola. Then, on the other hand, ne woba tolina sente, you can survive. But I think the one thing I learned about Europeans is ekyenkola ewange, because bwe ngula emmere ekitone nnyo ngula emmere ya wiiki, sukaali ngula wa wiiki, ebintu ebyo byetaagisa ebyewaka tugula bya wiiki. Amazzi nstowaringa teganzigwako. So it's something that I picked up from Europe, at least from this particular family, because yo nagendera ddala mu ewaabwe kye twaliyise ekyalo naye nga si kyalo nga it was their house. And ekiyumba kye yalina on the side nga mulimu deep freezer nene. One of the biggest deep freezers I've ever seen. Nga mu deep freezer omwo mubeeramu ice cream, mubeeramu ennyama, nga mubeeramu ebintu bingi nnyo. Family sigamba nti yalinga gganya okuba n'ettaka libaali babeerako baali baasikira sikire nga babeera wano muganda woyo omukyala ali mu ttaka eriddako, muganda we naye era mu ttaka eriddako, but they had huge lands nga balinawo ne farm. Okitegeera? And kyenalaba ku bazungu culture yaabwe eba encouraging okutereka emmere to keep as much food. Why? Because winter is coming. You guys have seen Game of Thrones and they would say winter is coming and they store food. That's their culture. And their culture teyajja nti oba bagezi nnyo. I was talking to someone, one of my followers here, aveeyo bweru, nangamba nti abazungu basiru balinga ffe. Tokumanya abazungu basiru. Ngoyagala omanya nti abazungu basiru ebitaala biveeko ku kkubo. Mulaba ebitaala byewandege yewe nga bwe bivaako naffe ntubera in chaos. Mbu nabo ebitaala ne bivaako olaba chaos. So abazungu nabo si bagezi okutusinga. Ngaffe bwe twagala okulowooza oba nga abagenda ebweru bwe bakomawo wano bwe batulowoozesa nti abazungu be bageze nnyo okutusinga. No, it's their culture. Ebintu ebimu bye bayitamu bishaping obulamu bwabwe. Kati because the world has moved on that now people live in apartments, kwe kutandika okuba nti now they save a lot of money. Naye nabo tebasavinganga sente bwe zaali nga tezabeeranga important, basavinganga mmere. That was their culture. Osegera abazungu okubeera ne fridge mu maka tebabeera nayo nti is a symbol of wealth ngaffe bwe tulowooza nti amaka gali mu fridge olwo bali bulungi. Abazungu babeera ne fridge ezo because during winter they keep meat for a long time. During winter, they keep tomatoes for a very long time. During winter, they keep, let's say, green pepper for a very long time. They keep ice cream, yogurt. By not teleke mere. No kubeera n'ebyo fridge ebinene aba America bimulaba mu films aba America. It's their culture. It's the lifestyle they have to live that has taught their culture to live the way they live. Fe wano mu Africa tuyina ensuwa. Mu Uganda kale kangame mu Buganda tuyina ensuwa y'amazzi. Why? Twafubanga amazzi gaffe ne tugassa mu nsuwa. Amazzi gaffe ensuwa ne tuginyookeza baba kitakola bitya nebanga amazzi gawunya bulungi. Okitegeera. But somehow we are abandoning our cultures tukopa eby'abazungu nga tetumanyi lwaki abazungu bakola ebintu nga bwe babikola. Yes, beera ne fridge yo. Nene ensuwa beera ne because amazzi g'ensuwa gawunya bulungi. Gula ensuwa yo nga nene nnyo teekamu amazzi bwe gatuuka gatusinga akawo kagize gateeke mu fridge. Okitegeera. Kati babazungu okubeera ne ga fridge aganene, it wasn't a symbol of wealth. Fe wano Uganda tetutaga fridge nene. No, we don't. We don't. Until probably we have those crises that happen in their countries. Nti nga bwolaba COVID. Because still nemo COVID twali tetutaga fridge. Omuntu yayinanga sente yagulanga ennyama ng'eri fresh. Omuntu yayinanga sente yagulanga ekyennyanja nga kiri fresh. Because emmere yasigalanga etambula. Okitegeera. So, in Africa, I think katufe ngaffe mu Uganda ekintu kyosinga okwetaaga properties and money. That's how it's ye lifestyle yaffe. Tuleme kwagala nti olowooza nti abazungu ebintu byebakola mbu be bageze nnyo. Si bagezi nnyo. Nsanga abavubuka nga omusana mungi omuvubuka nga ayambadde ekijaketi Gucci. Kakati ekijaketi ayambadde kyaki mulina ebbugumu. Mutamanyi bali abazungu bambala ebintu ebyo because their weather is always chilly. Oba kye bayita chilly. Okubeera nga obudde bunnyogoga. Osegeera. But anyway, I think I should get Muvabulayo omwajje tukoleyo interview. Wanga aliwo Muvabulayo alaba nga you're coming to Uganda very soon. Nga totya kamera jangu mu studio. Tukoleyo podcast yemu so that we explore these cultures. Then the other thing I realized. Chetugenda tukopa ekitali kituufu. Tukopa culture y'abazungu ey'obutazimba. Mwe bantu mmwe. Abazungu balina culture nti they move around a lot. Abazungu they are nomads. Okitegeera. Era abazungu ewaabwe owning ennyumba kiri very expensive okusinga ffe. Nti omuzungu abeera n'ennyumba alina okubeera mu homeowners association asasulayo fee, alina okusasula home simanya biki home taxes simanya bikoze bitya. At least that's what I've heard. I've not really read so much about it, but that's what I've heard. Emisolo giba mingi gwe okubeera n'ennyumba kiri expensive. Okitegeera. Nawulira nti tebabakiza na kulembeka amazzi. Nze amazzi ngendo gula amazzi kati recently nagula amazzi mu tanka zange. Ne ekyanguza amazzi nti tanka nalinzo nafuna omwana abana ne bajja ne bazooza. Nempite ekimotoka ky'amazzi ne kiyinteramu amazzi. But idea lenzo omwaka nsobola ogumalako nga siguze mazzi. Kuba nembeka amazzi. Nembera ne lito omutwalo gumwe waka. Okitegeera. Kati ate lito omutwalo gumu tuli abantu ba family tuli bantu bana ne maid. Kitegeeza tuli abantu batano. Toyiza ffe wadde za amazzi tetusobola gamalawo. Okitegeera it's a lot of water 10k liters. Kati waliwo ebintu emufe ngaffe bye tulina okwesigaliza ng'aba tunosanga amaka nga tegalina tanka. It's part of our cultures to have tanks. You are eternally tamusolo ku mazzi ge tulembeka bwe neeguleta then we'll figure out what to do about that. But I doubt bajja guleta kuba nabo balina zitanka mu maka gaabwe. Ate there is no way you're going to in Uganda it's very hard for them to tax water. Ng'ebintu ebyo balina okutaxinga bikyabaleme okutaxinga. Katojjo taxinga amazzi omuntu ge yeerembekedde. I don't know if you guys get what I'm saying. I don't know what culture and njogedde ko bulungi because bantu mwe musirise. Nange kansirike. Wadde njagala njogera nnyo. Omanyi njogera n'embwa ne yeesigama ennyama. Omanyi bwe etuukira okwesigama ennyama oba oyogedde. You guys, tell me the interesting bits about our culture. Nze, I've tried to learn things about our culture and I've tried to appreciate it a bit more. Recently, I think a year ago, mchara wange yali ambuuza lwaki amaka gedda gabanga n'omulyango gw'omu maaso n'omulyango gw'emmanju n'omulyango gw'omu mabbali. You guys have realized that ennyumba z'edda zonna zabanga n'omulyango gw'omu maaso gwe bayita ogw'emiryango n'ogw'emmanju naye nga waliwo n'omulyango gw'omu sides. Omulyango gw'emmanju gwe gwayitanga mu corridor n'ogenda mu toilets eri emmanju mu latrines. Omulyango gw'omu sides gwagendanga mu kitchen ogutali gwa mmanju, era omulyango gw'emmanju gwabanga mu ggale nga n'ogw'emiryango gubeera mu ggale naye gw'omu sides nga gubeera mu ggule literally all the time. Kati omulyango gw'omu sides ogwo gwe gwagendanga mu kiyungu, kuba ekiyungu kyabanga mu sides tekyabanga mmanju. Eri emmanju bwe wayitangayo ng'oyita mu nnimiro n'ogenda mu toyi. Eno emiryango abagenyi gye baayitanga. Kati ate ng'oyita n'ogenda mu kiyungu. Era side ewabeeranga ekiyungu ye tewabeerangayo na busubi. Nga wabeerawo akatandaala awo. Kitegeeza abantu ng'omugenyi bw'aba yazze asobola okuyitawo n'agenda mu toyi nga temumulabye nammwe nga muli mu kiyungu wammwe. But that's culture. Those are certain things that we can probably certain things that we can start appreciating about our culture. We are unique. Tutandika ku appreciating a uniqueness. Actually nange nyine emiryango esatu. Nyine omulyango ogw'emiryango ogw'emmanju gwe nali ntaddeko ku plan yange. But don't take people that went to school for granted. Omulyango ogw'emmanju eri emabega waliyo ka corridor katono. So architect n'aterako omulyango gw'omu sides. Kati omulyango gw'omu sides ate gwe bakozesa nga bakola emirimu. Ogw'emmanju simanyi na ddiro twasemba guggula. So ogw'emiryango tuguggula n'ogw'omu sides tuguggula n'ogw'emmanju tetugugula. So guys, tell me about your cultures nga sinabasoobera because ngenda basiibula. I hope you guys have taken your daily dose of water. Omuntu omulamu yali badde anywa liita emu ey'amazzi olunaku, kale at least 1 liter. Nze nywa liters nga 2 olunaku. Why? Because kati leero nkedde kudduka 15 kilometers. 15 kilometers ezo bw'ozidduka tosobola butatuuya n'okujjako nga toli nnomo. So I lost water in the morning. Kati of course sigenze mu gym. And the reason why I run on Saturdays because Sunday nadukanga Saturday ne Sunday ne kati ku Sunday nkira mu kibiina mbanyina okusoma. Guys, tell me about our culture. Tell me about your culture. Yona Joli, what do you think is interesting about the African culture that you think people that come abantu abamu abagende bweru manyo okwirabira cultures affe? By the way, mumanyo okwirabira cultures affe. Kati I think there are things bye tugenze tukoppa naye nga ate tubikoppa nga tetwagala. Mulimu ekintu kye tukoppa tugenze tukoppa ekyokubanga ba neighbor tetwemanyi. Do you realize that now it is happening? Nze mwestate muno mwendi ba neighbor bange bonna mbamanyi naye tusobola omala omwezi nga tetwerabye. Okisegeera naye nga twemanyi bwe twesanga twebuuzaako bigenda bitya naye tusobola omala omwezi nga tetwerabye. It's becoming totally normal. Tugenda oyingira mu modi ya Europe ey'abantu bebeerawo nga tebamanyi ba neighbor baabwe gye tugenda eyo. Okitegeera abaana bagendanga ne bawummula, abaana tebakyawummula. Okitegeera we are going into that mode. I think because a lot of bad things have happened to people, they mistrust everyone. Okitegeera amayumba gedda tegabanga nabikomera nga buba bukomera buno bwe basimbanga ng'abaana bajja ne bazannyira ewa abantu. Okitegeera these days ebintu byanjawulo nnyo. I think because katugenda tulina ebintu ebirala bye tugenda tukoppa. Abasajja abasomyeko kati nganze sikyagala mwana wa muntu mulala muwala kujja wange bayinza okumpayiriza nti omwana ambadde mukwata, bayinza okuwayiza mutabani wange nti abadde amukwata. Kugamba ebintu bige bw'aba mulenzi naye bayinza okuwayiza nti obadde omuli ebisiyaga nga obadde tomuli ebisiyaga. Kati the world is abantu, people are getting spoiled. Kati you can imagine omukyala yani omukyala wa Maulana yali asiba omusajja taata w'abaana be 3 ng'ekimusibya ayagala sente. Ate okumanyanga omukyala ono yali alina kyabalabu bazi. After she got money, mwamulaba mu kamera nga yeewaana nti kati nfunye sente kangende nti simanya ntemese simanya kati landlord kamusasula omwaka agamba ono mulodi ki. Like omuntu eyabadde mu pain wali badde teweewaana mu kamera, wali badde weebaza bakulwaniriddeko kusobola kufuna sente. Okitegeera weetonde n'okwetonda ogambe bannange taata w'abaana bange sikye namwali kyani mwagaliza naye omuntu n'otuuka okwewaana nti omusajja bamusibye. There are things that are happening right now things that should not be happening. And I think we are copying those things from Europe, we are copying these things from America. We should not be having those things in our country. Then what on even I don't know where that came from. Of course nowadays okulabirira abaana kuli tricky. Ntedde omusajja yazaalanga abaana be nga buli mwana gwozaala obwo bugagga. Anti buli mwana gwozaala ofunye farm employee. Buli mwana gwozaala agenda kulima 5 ku 10. Naye abaana b'ennaku zino tebalima. Toyina kyobafunamu. Edda nga n'omusajja buli bakazi bawasa bwe bugagga bwe zennimiro zajja okuba nazo yemmere jajja okuharvestinga. Ennaku zino abakazi bw'owasa abakazi buli mukazi gw'owasa burden. Buli mukazi gw'owasa gwalina omulabira. Ate tulabira yekka ebiseera emu olabira ye n'olabira n'abeewaabwe. Okitegeera kati ne weesanga nti ennaku zino it's no longer the best thing for you to go around ng'ozaala owasa abakazi bangi ng'ozaala abaana bangi because gw'ogenda kugwa. So you need to understand how the culture came about. Nti abasajja bedda bazaalanga abaana bangi. Edda tewali kusoma nga omwana olukulakulamu ng'ayingira ennimiro. Kati ogenda mussa mu nnimiro ki? You find that omuvubuka ali muzigo azaliddemu abaana 6. Okitegeera olumu stress n'emutta. And these stories by the way tubeera nazo. Nze nyina abantu bemmanyi ng'afudde pressure naye nga mbutuufu otunulira ebintu ebimuleetedde pressure abaana. Okitegeera because abaana ennaku zino tebakyaza magoba. Abedda gwa buli mwana gwabanga mukisa because buli mwana yabanga lebara. Buli mwana gwe wazaalanga ng'omanya nyina 5 ku 10 badde teriiko agirima we yajja kugirima. Okitegeera naye kati ennaku zino omwana ogenda mukozesa ki? Omuweerera n'omala omuweera n'omulabirira nga akaddiye n'okukaddiwa. Muyina example gye muyina ennene bw'omala ne kaliya n'omukoya ne kaliya olumu nayagala kujjawo gwadde mu kifo kyo ng'ate mu kifo kyo namwo tasobolamu. Mugitegedde message. Anyway guys, kamba siibule muyina engeri gye musiiso oyinza olowooza tesiinaako bantu online oba comment zeekwese. Kanda oba comment zeekwese bwekwese nyinza okuba ndi wano mbawaayiriza. Bani waliwo comment. Obedda comment zeekwese. Obedda ndi mu complaining nga temwogera. Comment nga zeekwese. Kanzisome. Andabe nakomye ku comment ki ngeri wala. Naye YouTube enkoze bubi leero. Comment zino senga nazisomye dda. Neeraba gyendi. Fatuma nagenze tannaba nakujja. Mama ingira comment zisinasoma nga mpitirivu bantu bange. Munsonyiwe. Ate ezasoose zo zibuze. Comment ezasoose zibuze kati baleseze mbadde sinnalaba. Lindako tulabe. Okay. Kale kanzireyo wano ndabe.